Sitting next to me is an IBM Enterprise server from 2010, and it's been wrapped up in these bags since I got it because basically it's a biohazard. This thing is in rough shape. This is a System x3650 M2, and it's definitely experienced some sort of water incident. Looks like it's been running in a swamp for 5 years. I bought this thing for a few reasons. First, the ADP logo really caught my eye. This isn't just slapped on here some cheap sticker afterwards. It's easily as good as the IBM badges that came right off the factory line. Second, it has 3 hard drives in it still. Given its condition, there's a chance that it was hastily pulled from an environment, and maybe there's something on those hard drives. Can't make any promises there. And I've also got reason to believe, based on some of the other labels on this thing, that this was indeed owned by ADP. ADP, of course, being Automatic Data Processing Incorporated, an American software company that's been around since 1949. They do like HR and payroll software. And so we'll get into why I think this was owned by them a little later in the video. And finally, I like a good project. This is definitely a project. So what we're going to do is strip this thing down to every single part it's got, totally clean it up, make it look like brand new, hopefully get it running, and maybe there's something on those hard drives. I'm really going to have to push all my cleaning skills to the limit here, as you'll see. So let's get into it. If you're anything like me, you're thinking, 2010, what are you messing with this new thing for? That was like 3 years ago. No, 13 years ago, unfortunately. Now I'm a little torn on just firing it up right away, seeing what it does, and tearing it down. So someone in 2021 decided it powered on. eBay seller claims it does, but I don't know. This thing is really nasty. I'm thinking it's gonna be like irresponsible not to clean it first before turning it on. Not much to lose. So here's the game plan. We're gonna part all this out, clean it up, put it back together, and see what we can get going. It's just filthy. Something really bad happened in the front here. Get the shroud off. I think we've got 2 gigs of RAM in here. 2 gigs total. IBM OEM, of course. These riser brackets come right out. This one's got an extra SAS card in it. Also just comes right out. Now what's interesting is this is like really, I don't know how to describe it, dense grime, but I don't actually see water damage other than the top of the case. So that's pretty encouraging. On the back we've got slots for 2 power supplies, but we only have 1. This is just like a little cover, kind of interesting. So let's get this out. I don't think it would have been a good idea to start this up. I might even dig into there just to make sure it's all cleaned out. This shroud also comes off. This is our SAS controller here. Slides right out, very nice. Let's take a look at these drives. They're really clean, which is really encouraging. It's just really dirty on the outside, so that's exciting. 3 of them in total. They're in a RAID configuration if they have not been wiped, I suspect. A bunch of these blanks, just filthy. Yeah, that's not what you want your hard drive cage to look like. Let's see what the story is with this tape drive. Ooh. This part of the case is a little bent up. So, there it is though. All right. Had a special Molex power adapter, and then just a regular USB cord coming through. Turn our attention to this faceplate here. Got a screw on either side. I know I'm kind of breezing through this, but to be honest, I'm trying to do it as fast as I can because this thing smells terrible. Looks like some Torx bits on the top. I didn't check the bottom, so we'll see. So far so good though. No screws on the bottom, just snaps off. Look at this. Rust here. This is just grime. Let's get this further out. So in here, blue means the machine needs to be off. And so this light diagnostics panel came out when I pressed an indent there, a little blue switch, and then same for the DVD-ROM. You press that in and you can see slid right out. I'm sure she works great. This one's gonna need to be unscrewed. Keeping all the screws in this little salad dressing container. I tell you what, guys, yeah, it smells terrible. Fancy little USB and VGA assembly is free. Working on this area now. This is a hard drive backplane. Okay, beautiful. You lift up, past some tabs, and the backplanes come out like that. That's great. Now, how to get this thing open. Ooh, a spider. He's dead. I knew it'd be an assembly. Okay, whole thing comes out. This riser card. This was literally just a USB cable for that tape drive. It's kind of funny. In here, we've actually got some very useful system board removal instructions. So there's a edge connector on this board that plugs into the power supplies. So what it's saying is you unscrew everything, pull it back, and then you can lift it up like that once these edge connectors are out of the way. Now I think we unscrew the main board. Don't know what that is. It's supposed to slide this way and then lift up this way, but something's holding me up here. That might help. This one looks a little rusty. I don't like that. Okay, let's try again. That might be it. Yeah, okay. These two guys come down and lock a tray that the main board is on. And so you have to push those up first. We've slid forward, theoretically. Yep. Now we get to see just how bad it really is. No evidence of water except a little bit right here. So hopefully everything remains superficial. And here we go. This thing is sitting on a tray of some sort. Not sure how it's connected. Okay, so this tray has some Torx screws tying it in where the CPUs are. They are the same size Torx bit as the front plate screws, so that was nice of IBM. In fact, they're the exact same screw. I like that. A little bit of dirt on the back there. Definitely something here. Not bad. Dirty here. Sorry. A little bit of milkiness looking stuff here, so maybe a little water got in, but I don't see any rust. I think we're in good shape. This looks completely fine. Wow. I was really hoping it would look like this. These server mainboards are massive. Kind of funny to see them out of the machine. So this is why I went to all this trouble. I mean, this thing is just so dirty. I was not going to get it clean inside the case. I was actually going to wash this thing in the sink. You can actually do that with, you know, soapy water and stuff, but I think IPA is going to do the trick. We'll start by just dusting off the really big stuff here. Yeah, this stuff is so thick and grimy. It's definitely going to take something more than this. All right, that took 3 years off my life. Here's a strategy. Scrub this down with IPA, and I've got the military grade stuff. Yuck. We'll let that dry for a little bit. Also gonna let these guys soak for a little while. Some sort of obnoxious bit on these that I don't have. It's a little bump in the middle, so we'll just wash them in the trays. I'm also gonna blast all the connectors with this, just for good measure. We'll be taking a slightly different approach with this stuff. Another issue is this really banged up front panel. Surprised that was even on there to begin with. See if I can persuade that to look a little better. Kinda. It's better than it was. So as you can see, we've got some rust discoloration here. See, we've exposed a bunch of rust. So yeah, let's fix it. Restoration of the year, folks. Look at that line. Don't worry about the insane amount of overspray I got, everywhere. Doesn't matter. Looking good. And for this lovely guy, we're just gonna hit it with plain old white vinegar to see if we can slow down this rusting, and then we'll see where we can get after that. Let that sit there for a while. All right, it's looking a lot better. You'll have to trust me. The rust is gone, scraped it all off obviously, but I think I might end up just spray painting this whole thing black. I'll protect the stickers and stuff. It's just gonna rust again, basically, if I don't protect it somehow. So yeah, I'm gonna sleep on that though. I'm gonna call it a night. I think that's enough chemicals for one night. It's the next day and we're making progress, even if it doesn't look like it. So I decided I'm gonna paint the top of this case later. And so that's looking good and it's smelling a lot better. Been spot cleaning that board. It's kind of one of those things where no matter how much you clean it, there's still dirt coming off, but it definitely looks a lot better than it did and it smells a lot better. And this stuff here, I'm just gonna strip the PCBs off of it. We'll clean those with IPA and I'll clean this stuff with soapy water in the sink. Not sure what I'm gonna do about these fans yet. They're really bad. I might just dunk them in water and then hit them with the heat gun. So we'll see, I'll let you know. I'm gonna do that off camera, and in the meantime, I think I promised to tell you why I think this thing for sure was owned by ADP, beyond this badge here. Now, in addition, of course, to the super high quality ADP logo on the right side of the case here, which caught my eye in the first place, is a label that says DMS. This might stand for Dealership Management System, some software ADP produced, or maybe they still produce, to allow auto dealerships to manage their fleet of vehicles. The eBay seller was also in Missouri here in the United States, and a ton of vehicles are manufactured in that state, so that kind of points in the direction of this at least being used to run ADP software. And even more interesting is a label on the left side of the case with an IP address, 206.9385. And if we take a look at who owns that IP with Whois, we see it's owned by something called ADP AutoNet. So this is actually a public IP in a block that ADP owns and has owned since 1996, which is impressive. And the AutoNet part is even more fascinating. ADP AutoNet was a packet switching network that ADP had developed, I think, back in the 80s. Initially for internal use, but eventually they started selling it sort of as a competitor to the internet. Got this stuff all washed up in the sink, gonna let it dry overnight, hit it with the heat gun a little bit. Now let's turn our attention to the other PCBs, riser boards, and peripherals. Let's start cranking on all this stuff. We'll begin with, of course, the belle of the ball, the LightPath Diagnostics module. Now, working on all this IBM stuff is always fascinating because you see sort of like throwbacks to IBM's past or IBM-isms. Now, a LightPath is a plastic piece of tubing that an LED shines in and then it shows up somewhere else. In fact, the System P5 I have has a pretty elaborate LightPath system in it. This thing is just a tray of LEDs, so it's supposed to open. This little guy is supposed to push in this clip. It's all jammed up, so we're gonna fix that and then show you diagnostic LEDs. But IBM being IBM, they still call it LightPath Diagnostics, which I love. You're always gonna find stuff, this is just one example, you're always gonna find interesting stuff like that working on IBM gear. Now, hopefully, yeah, there we go. So, look at that. So this is of course on the front of the machine usually, and we have all our LEDs. And in certain IBM systems, like that P5 I was just showing you, these would be actual, plastic tubes. I wonder if I can just get this all the way out like that. No, there's probably a way. I think you take this sticker off. There's actually a ribbon cable inside connecting this back connector, and it's unfortunately riveted on, which is a shame. So I'm gonna have to clean this up. It's just so crunchy in there. Yeah, I'll do my best to clean this up, I guess. Okay, here's the story with this guy. Got them all cleaned up. Scraped off this rust patch that could arguably use some paint. And how this is supposed to work, like I was saying, you push this in and this little indent goes past the metal and lets it come out. But this plastic is cracked and broke, so you have to use a screwdriver like that to push it. And I don't know if it's going to come out, but there's a really nasty crack in the plastic, so it just can't pull it the rest of the way. Amazingly, this is a removable part. So what I'm going to do, it'd be funny if I could just find one on eBay, but what I'm going to do, I don't know if you can tell, yeah, that screw's all rusted. So this little piece is broken. It's going to come out, and now it'll go in here. It just won't clip in, but I'll still, I think, be able to pull it out and use it when I'm using the machine. And it's really crusty, so I tried to clean it as good as I could in there. What I really need to do is get some like lithium grease and sneak it on each side, because you just have plastic grinding on metal, and there's a bunch of grit in there that I'm going to continue to try to flush out from, well, I mean, you saw the rest of the machine, you know what's going on there, but yeah, you can hear the grit that I can't get rid of. But yeah, that'll work now. I think we'll move on to some PCBs. When this stuff gets hit with cleaner, it like solidifies into this terrible sludge. Comment below if you know what that is. Like, usually the story with restoring a machine like this is you hit it with the air compressor, the dust goes away, and then you spot clean and you're done. But this stuff is just horrendous. It's this like sludgy stuff, and it's almost like it gets worse as you try to clean it. Whatever it is, I hope it's not conductive, because that would basically ruin this machine whenever I turn it back on, because there's just no way I can get rid of all this stuff. The riser boards aren't that bad, and they're easy to clean. All of these have special names. This is Riser Naira? Anyway. Both of them are exactly the same, as far as I could tell. Doesn't matter where you put them. This is that funny riser board with the USB for the tape drive, a slot for the SAS controller, and I think this is an additional USB key for some sort of hypervisor capability that IBM offered. I wonder if this was me. Some serious damage got done here. The thing is like totally destroyed. Oh no, that must have been me. There's no way. Yeah, I think that's power for the tape drive. I bet I ripped it right out. Whoops. Another code name, Marie Pass 3. Mary Pass 3. This thing is pretty much pristine. I'm gonna spray it down with the electronic cleaner just for smell purposes. About 4 hours later, and there you have it. Everything you need to build an IBM Series x3650 M2 from 2010. All cleaned up. Even pulled the power supply open here, popped it open, and actually might be one of the cleanest things inside the whole unit. So that was a pleasant surprise. I think we're ready for reassembly. We'll start with the main board. When I took it apart, I think I took all the screws out and then pulled it out of the machine, and you don't actually need to do that. It totally relies on those latches. And who says IBM doesn't have a sense of humor? The connector for the light path diagnostics module is labeled bling bling. So you can have all the screws in, and these are the clips I was talking about. They come down and latch in and lock the main board. These were really stiff and gave me a lot of trouble when I pulled it out, so I've blasted them with WD-40. Guess we can slide this guy in. Beautiful. His friend. This plastic shroud thing just went in here. I think I'm actually going to throw these back planes in. I cabled them all back together ahead of time to hopefully make my job easier. And it did. I know this looks like it's really dirty, and well, it is. I'm not a miracle worker. But a lot of it is the overspray for my Primo paint job earlier. All right, wanted to get those in because one of them plugs in right here. Okay, and then this riser board that has the USB for the tape drive and a slot for the SAS controller goes right here. And I lied, light tubes. They couldn't help themselves. I love it. These are LEDs back here, and they shine up through here. Awesome. I had a hard time getting this out, but I was probably just being too gentle. Oh my God. We're good. Everything's good. I've made a mistake already. Power for the tape drive on this connector I've absolutely destroyed. That's fine though. Let's get the USB plugged in for the tape drive while I'm at it. There's also a SATA connector on here. Kind of interesting. Okay, round 2. Getting better. Oh, round 3. It's getting pretty tight in here. Let's slide this tape drive in before the SATA connector. I'm not in love with this setup. This Molex adapter is really short. It's going to be interesting. And by too short, I mean the perfect length. We're getting tight. The power is too short and the USB cable is comically long. It's in. SAS card time. Trying to remember how this worked. Oh yeah, that's nice. Custom clip there. And then I don't know which one was which. Must have been packed in there like that. Okay, I think that assembly is done. Very low probability of this thing working, but we'll slap it in there anyway. Everyone's favorite, light path diagnostics. Now the question is, can I get it out with this on? And I'm thinking no. We're gonna have to do a little modding. Nothing on this machine is actually clean, no matter how many times you clean it. So the deal with this guy, if you'll recall, is it has a little plastic bump that lets it unlatch from here, but this is so cracked that it flexes and can't do that. So the plan is I'm cutting it off as best I can. I'll put this little handle back on and hopefully I can just pull it out. It won't actually latch anymore. And there's plenty of grit in here to latch it, so I'm not worried. So with that modification, I can just pull. It comes out, and we're probably gonna need these. I don't think this is gonna work right away. Get these guys back in here. Beautiful. Guess we can throw all these guys back in there. Starting to look like a computer again. Get all this stuff plugged back in. The idiot that pulled that out bent all the pins up. You know, I'm pretty excited to fire this up. It's gonna smell like brake clean, WD-40, and I don't know, gym socks that have been sitting in seawater for 30 years. There we go. Not bad, not bad. What a beautiful sight. This poor machine did not deserve whatever happened to it. Well, wish me luck. Signs of life. I hear the power supply. LEDs on the board. Got some blinking going on down there. And then I can hear this guy spinning. This guy's blinking. The power light, that's a good sign. Let's go. She's a ripper. So loud. Wasn't gonna be that simple. Fan spun up, full tilt, messages you saw on the screen, and it turned itself off and said F4. So I'm gonna do a little investigation. And now it says BRD. So amazingly, there's an IBM.com help article about this exact machine showing a BRD light after it turns off. And the workaround is to ensure that you have both riser cards installed. So maybe we're gonna get lucky and it's a bad connection. Pulled them both out. These edges are very clean. So it's not the cards themselves. So we'll blast the slots and cross our fingers. Let that dry for a bit. This stuff will save your life every time. Actually, these do get pretty dirty. I've been pushing them down into the slot, you know, moving them around a little bit, pulling them back up and cleaning them. And there's definitely a lot of dirt in there. So I'm just gonna keep cleaning this and we'll try again. So I was doing a little more reading while that contact cleaner was drying. And BRD means system board error, which could mean anything. And it mentions, you need a qualified service technician, which is me, of course. But it also mentioned that it could be the battery. So in classic collab retro fashion, we're just gonna replace two things at once and not know which one made a difference. I guess that's fine. Let's go for it. No, doesn't like that. We'll wait a little longer. The plot thickens. E7, of course. Well, in classic fashion, this is gonna have to be a two-parter. It's gonna take me hours and hours to diagnose what's going on with this thing, but I'm feeling pretty confident. It did fire up at least once. All the fans roared to life. I actually washed these in the sink with soapy water, so you can just do that, even though people say you can't. And we didn't even need to use the fire extinguisher, so I'm calling it a win so far. Our diagnostic panel seems to be operating. It's gonna be probably our key to success here to tell us what's going on with this thing. It's got tons of LEDs on board and diagnostic capabilities. I think it's just going to take me a long time, and I'd really like to get out what I've filmed so far. The other good part is that some of you out there might know exactly how I should troubleshoot this thing, so please leave comments below and let me know what are the next steps here. If you haven't subscribed, please consider it. I've always got projects like this rolling, and of course we'll have a part 2 where we bring this back to life, see if there's anything on these hard drives, maybe some ADP software. I can sign us all up for 401ks. And if you'd like to support the channel even more, I've got a Patreon where I post early videos of stuff like this and whatever else I'm tinkering with down here. I really hope you enjoyed following along as I cleaned up this machine, and I'll see you in the next one.